So what does this camera here have to do with this plugin? Let's find out. I've always been fascinated by the look and feel of real film. It's kind of like listening to vinyl instead of a digital music file. It just feels more organic, more natural, and there is a character to film that's often lost in crisp digital footage. I will not just compare footage shot on real Super 8 film to Dehancer. Together we will replicate the look of Super 8 within Dehancer, and then we want to find out if it is really able to mimic real Super 8 film. So if you want to find out how it compares, stick until the end. So Dehancer is a film emulation plugin available for all major photo and video editing platforms, including DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, Photoshop, Lightroom, you name it. It's available for all these major editing platforms, and there's even an app. So you can use this app to create looks on the go. So when you're sitting in a train or bus, you can just play around and see what look you want to create next. So let's dive right into my editing software, in this case DaVinci Resolve. But the great thing is Dehancer is consistent across all major editing platforms, so everything I'm talking about today will apply to all the others too. So now we find ourselves in the Color tab of DaVinci Resolve, and after installing Dehancer, you will find the Dehancer Pro plugin under Film Emulation. So we'll just drag that onto a free node, and I will show you some of the features here. So once we're here in the editing effects section, we will find many sliders to tweak things and to manipulate the footage to our needs. We can define an input camera here, do primary adjustments, choose our film stocks. We have the film developer section to further enhance whatever we need. Film compression, we have an expand tab. We can choose a film print. I will come back to that later because it's a very nice feature. Color head, secondary color correction, we have film grain, and we even can choose different films, like film sizes and ISO rates, which is absolutely amazing. And this also applies to halation, bloom, film damage, film breath, gate weave. We even have overscan as an option to simulate the film sprocket, which is absolutely fantastic. And we will use that today to replicate my Super 8 look. Then we have vignette and some more tools like a LUT generator, for instance, which is absolutely amazing. So we can even create our own LUTs inside of Dehancer. So even quality, we can select that too. Obviously, if we select normal, it's going to be faster, but we can also select high. Really, I never really use high quality. So I always use the fast option, but to be honest, I'm very satisfied with how it already is. So let me take you through my workflow to replicate the look of Super 8 here in Dehancer. So let's dive right in. So here we have the sample footage we want to transform into Super 8 looking footage. The Super 8 clip, the real one, is just on the other side right here, and I already set some markers to kind of get the look we have here, because same setting, same place, not the same lighting though, but here you see the real Super 8 footage, and we want to get this clip, which is shot on the A7S III, to look kind of like, or maybe even as close as possible to the real one. So we have the clip here, go into our Color tab again, drag an instance of Dehancer onto that, and then we want to select our source. So we select our Sony, and we have, as you can see, all major camera manufacturers listed. So we go for the Sony, and then we select the A7S III. As we filmed in S-Log3, I also want to select that here. Boom. And right out of the box, already looks good. I would say we can turn down the exposure a bit in our primaries, so we can see in our histogram that we are somewhere in the middle. So it's not like too much of highlights and shadows. It's right in the middle, which is good. Then we want to select the film stock of our real Super 8 film. And this was shot on, where do we do it? Kodak Vision 350D. But let me show you something, and this is so cool. We can't just select motion picture film stocks here, we can even select photographic film stock, like this one. This is a Kodak Color Plus 200, and even the photographic film stocks are listed here. As you can see here, we have Portra 400, Portra 800, Portra 160, we have Kodak Gold 200, Kodak Acta, and even our Color Plus, which I just showed you. And we can select that too, which is absolutely amazing for every analog photography geek. And me as an analog photography geek, I was always thinking about how would that look if it was shot as motion picture film. And we can kind of like replicate that here, super nice. So now let's go back to the Vision 350D, oh not that one, 50D. So already looks good, and then here we can even push pull. So in photochemical processing, we can have the film being exposed to the chemical bath either the regular time that it needs to be developed at a 0, but we can also underdevelop it. That means we pull the film, or we can overdevelop it, which means pushing the film. And this is being simulated here. It doesn't have too much of an effect though. I wish it would have more, so that would be a recommendation to change, but it's a good feature to have. And we have Film Developer. We can here boost the contrast, for instance. And I feel like this is something we should do slightly. And we can see in the histogram that we have another room to actually do that, because it's kind of hazy like that, and I want to have more contrast in here. Not too much though, like that looks good. Just a little bit more. We can also correct the gamma value here. Maybe we need to do that to kind of get into a nice looking image, but for now it seems to be good. And color boost, if it's undersaturated, we can boost the colors as well, but I don't want to do that right now because it already looks pretty decent. And we can add a bit more of color here. So here we have film compression. I want to enable that because usually the look of film is a bit compressed in the shadows and highlights. That's usual for film, so we can replicate that too. It's the faded film look, but here we have much more control over it, how it affects the highlights or the overall tonal range, so we can compress everything exactly how it is on the real film. Okay, color density, we can put that up a little bit, expand, we don't need to work with that, but I mean, it's somehow a secondary control. After film compression, I don't really know the real reason for the expand one, but I will leave that for now. Seems to be like a secondary control option here. So here we have print. Print, very easy to understand when we know what it's about. So in cinema, we use color negative films. So we're not filming on slide film, we use color negative films. And that means when we want to project it in a cinema, we need to transfer the color negative onto a slide film. So a color positive one so we can have a projector projecting through it and getting it onto the canvas. So we can emulate that too. We have Cineon Filmlock if you want to process it further with a secondary grade. If you're a pro, maybe that's something you want to do. Otherwise, we have two very common print film stocks. That is the Fujifilm 3513 and the Kodak 2383 print film. The Kodak one, by the way, is the standard Hollywood print film, and we even have Kodak Endura glossy paper, which is actually a printed image. So when we would project that onto a print, like a print paper, basically, to make a photocopy of it. I don't know why we would need that, so I don't choose that one. I would choose Kodak 2383, but my Super 8 film got scanned directly from the negative and was transformed to positive digitally. So I don't choose any print right now because it would mess up the colors. So I keep it on linear. We have secondary color grading options here. I don't want to touch them right now because for me it looks all good. Film grain, now it is the 35 ISO 250, but we want to have it on Super 850 to get the right grain. It already looks good. I mean, wow. And the cool thing is the grain here is actually simulated. The grain is not just an overlay, it is algorithmic and it is a real simulation. It is CPU intensive, so keep that in mind, but the picture will basically be rearranged in real grain or simulated grain. And that gives it a very, very authentic look, in my opinion. As you can see, already looks very nice. Halation, little sidekick, just to explain it to everybody who doesn't know about it. Film is split into different layers of the different colors, and the last layer is the red layer. So with halation, we have an effect that if there are a lot of highlights, a little bit of light could potentially be reflected back onto the red layer from behind, and this is causing the halation effect. Obviously I want to have that enabled because on Super 8 footage we have more halation than on much other film stocks. I will select that. Also, there are options for no ramjet. What does that mean? Ramjet is actually the halation blocking layer behind the red layer, and it's a black layer of carbon that should absorb most of the light going back onto the red layer. But some film stocks don't have an halation layer, or we want just more halation, so we can select that here too. And we can also amplify it. So right now it's not so much of highlights going on here, so there's not a lot of halation being simulated, which is good, which is actually how it should be. I've seen many other plugins that just throw the halation on it whenever. It doesn't look realistic, so we want to have it as realistic as possible. Bloom, I have that on my Super 8 camera. It kind of has a lot of bloom. I mean, the lens is a bit old and foggy, so maybe we get just more bloom, you know? Let's select that here. Enable it. I need to enable that too. Oh, there's some halation. Sorry, I didn't activate that column, so there's just a little bit of halation, so we keep that here. We can also apply the mask modes for that, and we will see the areas that will be affected. Right now it's just minor, so there's not a lot of masking being shown. Film damage. You know, like the dust spots and little hairs on the film. We can also select Super 8 here. So film damage is something that is very common on Super 8 film, but other film stocks too. But on Super 8 it's very visible because it's such a small film. Let me show you how small it is. So this is Super 8 film. And Super 8 film is very small. So every hair and stuff will be quite visible if you're not careful. So super nice feature. Also that we're able to select different sizes in any case here. And we also see some hairs already appearing, or whatever that is. It's like a scratch. Looks very realistic, so let's play it. Oh, looks nice, but it's so much of damage here. So let's slide that down a bit. That looks good, but still so much. I mean, it's all the way on the left. How much is it when I put it all the way right? Damn, that's a lot of film damage. I don't want so much. I have it all the way left though, and it's still so much. Dehancer, could you reduce it further? I mean, it's all the way left, and it's still a lot. So that would be nice to reduce that a bit, because I don't want to have so much film damage though. Film breath, I want to enable that too. Doesn't seem it has too much of an impact. But anyway, let's include that. Gate weave. So on Super 8 film we have a lot of gate weave because Super 8 film is not having a pressure plate that really keeps the pressure on the film, so the film can wiggle a bit. And what happens then is the projection onto the film plane will also jitter a bit. And we simulate that here too, and that is absolutely fantastic. So let's choose the Super 8 again, get some gate weave here, making it look very realistic. Nice. So the film breath is like the change of colors that can occur, especially on Super 8. Sometimes the color can shift during record. For now it's a lot, I want to reduce it a bit. All right, that looks good. And now we're in the overscan section. And that's where we want to simulate the film gate. My film is always scanned like full frame. So I have the full frame, including the sprockets. And I want to simulate that here too. So let's select the Super 8 one. Let's enable it too. Boom. Oh, that looks fantastic. Let's play it again. The gate just looks very unnatural and sharp when we compare it to the real gate, as you can see here. Let's move to the section where Christine is once again walking at the beach. It's much more soft, you see? It's much more soft, and it's kind of like blending into each other because the aperture was wide open. It differs from camera to camera, but it would be nice to get this effect too, because I was not able to find that yet. Let's select, wait, let's go back to our graded or clip we're grading. So, oh, I just want the clip side by side. Let's put it side by side. It's much darker in this sequence, so I just focus on this sequence here. This looks much darker. So we have that clip isolated here. Still the Super 8 looks a bit more soft, and the gate looks softer too. I mean, you can see that in the corners. So we can do that by defocusing the gate. So we put the defocus light to the right, And we can already see this nice out of focus gate, which I like to have, which looks much more realistic. Gate shape, neat, normal, we can select different ones here, like the rounded one or the neat sharp one. Whatever you want to replicate, you can do that here. So there's some control, and you can even select positive. So when you have a slide film, obviously the color is inverted, so the sprocket is white and not black. So we can select that here too. And we can even turn it off, but to be honest, I don't know any case where you don't have sprockets. So I don't know. So I keep it on negative for now. We can select the gate exposure. Is it more or less exposed? In my case, on the Canon here, it's pretty exposed. So I keep it more to the right. You see there's also a lot of coloring on the sprocket or around the sprocket happening. It looks okay on the Dehancer one. I would like to see more options to have this gate, the sprocket look more realistic, like here. You see the sprocket looks sharper and there's this orangey glow around it. And here it looks more, it looks okay. It looks okay, but I would like to see more options to change that too. And we can select the film orientation, maybe was horizontal, maybe not. So you can even play around with that. Lens zoom, yeah, you can even do that. I will keep that on default, and then all is good. We can even flip it. Static gate, I don't know how static the gate on my real one was. Pretty static, so I keep it. Otherwise you can see it like wiggling. So let's turn that on for a second. So I deselect static gate. And now you see the gate bouncing around. But I don't have that on my camera, so I keep the static one. And then we have vignette. Why is it? Oh, it's not enabled. You always need to enable every option. So don't wonder if you like pull on the sliders and nothing happens. You need to enable them. That looks nice. There's quite some vignetting in my real one, so I want to have that here too. I mean, quite some vignetting. That's what I'm talking about. Looks good. So the real one is much more in a colder regime of colors. That's probably because I filmed the Super 8 clip at like somehow later in the sunset. So we need to go back to our primaries and try to see if we can get the temperature down a little bit. Or we play with the tint. And also the real Super 8 one looks a bit more contrasty and much more soft. It looks much more soft. That still looks quite sharp. Okay, so for the temperature and tint, let's pull down the exposure a little bit. So the film compression, maybe we can boost the colors a little bit. Try to see if we can get closer to the softer look of the real film. Maybe we see that happening when we turn up the bloom a little bit more, but I don't know. Not really. Saturation looks good. So yeah, I feel like we were not like getting it like more soft in here. So maybe that's something we can do in a secondary grade and just reduce the overall sharpness a little bit on a secondary node. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of doing the job. But still, it looks too warm to me. Now we're getting close. Now we're getting close. So for now, I'm pretty satisfied with the result. I'm pretty satisfied. It's still not perfect. There's too much dirt. Way too much dirt. I mean, on the real one, look, it's here and there. But it's not too much. And here, it's like a lot. And even though it's all the way to the left. So, yeah. So let's see it side by side. How does it compare? So on the left, we have the real one. And on the right side, we have the graded one. So what do you think? Is it close to it? Is it really close to it? What would you think if that is a footage where someone is saying, hey, what do you guess? Is it analog or digital? Would you guess that this is made digitally or not? Can you spot the differences? So find that out for yourself. So let's get into a conclusion. While Dehancer does a good job with grain, the selection of film stocks and the colors, it's not 100% there when it comes to replicating Super 8 film. But for a digital plugin, it already does a fantastic job. So that's it for now, but there's a 10% off discount code. It's called Jones Away. It saves you 10% of your final purchase price of Dehancer. So check that out if you want to try it for yourself. Thank you, Dehancer, for supporting me with this video, and I will catch you in my next one. So what does this camera here do it all the time? Damn, just silence.